Welcome down here to the Kerava National Cricket Ground outside of Vanta, north of Helsinki in beautiful drizzly Finland. We are finally getting underway this afternoon. Bit of a belated start. And we can put that one down to the weather. Unfortunately, the weather radar has been putting us wrong today. We thought it was all going to stop and we'd get on the park around 12 today, but it hasn't been the case. There was some very heavy downpours, and then this drizzle and mizzle has been lingering around the rest of the afternoon. But finally, the umpires have seen sense, and we are on the park in a truncated game between Denmark and Finland, the final game of the Nordic T20. The game washed out this morning was between Denmark and Norway, but Norway currently in action over there in Tikkurila. I'm joined this afternoon on the mic by Richard Savage. It's going to be 16 overs aside. What do you think, Richard?
I'm just glad to get anything, to be honest with you, Jez. It's been a frustrating day. First game scheduled, or the first two games scheduled earlier today, both here and at Tikkurila, were washed out, as we mentioned. So it's good just to have something. And Denmark, who've been very sprightly around Kerava, despite the rain and despite the delays. They've been keeping their spirits up with plenty of music and chatter. They were just desperate to get out there, as we all were. And as I said, they will begin by bowling, having won the toss, which seems like hours ago. And Finland, Sheridan and Tavajarja opening the batting. Sheridan off that 83 not out as we get underway.
Well, that's a wide one to start, but I can tell you that the Danish girls were active whenever they could be today. We might not have been able to get out into the middle of the park, but they spent plenty of time in the nets, working on their game and working on their strategies and their change-up deliveries. So they're coming in warm. That one is off the tram lines. But the ball out there, brand new, of course. As soon as it gets wet, it gets greasy. So one slipping out there from Brunsgaard.
Yeah, it is mizzly, I think, is the term. It's sort of half mist, half drizzle still, but we're underway, which is something we're grateful for. I think they'd have played in the pouring rain earlier. They were so keen, to be honest. But
definitely. So it will be 16 overs aside. So we're still getting a reasonable game in between these two nations. And I think even if the rain comes back, it's going to be hard to get them off the park. That one down the leg side.
so apart from that defeat on the opening day on Friday for Finland against Sweden, they have gone unbeaten since then. So on current form, and bearing in mind that 83 that Stella Sheridan knocked yesterday, not out, we perhaps have them on home turf, perhaps slight favourites.
It's going to be a close game. I think this will be one of the closest games of the tournament, in fact. And I think the same could have been said for this morning. I think Denmark-Norway would have been a very close game. This will be the same. Really floating that one up, not charging in like she did in the nets earlier today. She can heat it up, Brunsgaard. Maybe she's not too sure about her footing in these conditions. Maybe she's not too sure with the wet ball in hand, but she can certainly bowl quickly when she wants to.
It is crucial, the footwear you have on for this artificial pitch, because with the dampness around and there's still the mizzle in the air, it can get slippy on there, so you don't want to be charging in too recklessly. And I think it gets into your mind as well a little bit. If you have a slight slip, then it's in your mind and you run up. So I think she's perhaps wise just to take a little bit of heat off the run up to start with.
Yeah, I don't see the point myself in coming around the wicket to the right-hander. I think she's better to stay over the wicket. but never mind. Yeah, just
Around the wicket and same result.
going down the leg side. I think she should switch up and come over the wicket. I hope that they'll see sense in the next few seconds. I think it's been given as a no ball. I didn't see her overstep, but I'm guessing that's what it was. Galeka there, opening the batting for Finland with Sheridan. And yes, she's swapping to come back over the stumps. This is a wise decision. That's wide, so the next ball will also be a free hit. Some easy runs coming the way of Finland in this first over. Not the start that the Danes would have wanted, but they are tricky conditions for the fast bowlers in particular. I can give you an update quickly from the Tikkurila game. They got on the park, Norway, after 10 overs, 29 for 4 against Sweden.
Yeah, in the 10th over. So slow going for them. Their game has been reduced to 18 overs, I think, down there.
Yes, Norway, I think they put up 80 odd against Sweden the other day, which Sweden chased 4 down after a recovery by their middle order. I think Norway felt if they could put up a similar score today, they could make it harder for Sweden, but it is slow going over there. Meanwhile, we've got a bit of a long over to start proceedings here, so it might be 16 overs aside, but we might get 20 in each anyway.
Yeah, I think this is already an 18 over game, or at least an 18 over innings. I was trying to count the balls we've had in this over so far.
Yeah, I think we've had 9. That's online. It's actually the 12th ball, so this is already counts as 2 overs, but we saw this the other day. Frey for Estonia bowled a 16 ball over to start and came back and bowled a standard over, the following one, so you can put it out of your mind and come back. It's all about attitude out there. And you can see the Danes very positive in the field, supporting their bowler.
Well, she's finally got those last 2 right. A bit more use of the wrist, it seemed, from those last 2, and they've pitched nicely.
Well, there you go. She's stuck to it, and she's been rewarded by cleaning up that line and rolled straight. Look at the relief on her face. She's knocked that leg stump back. It was a full ball. Galeka played over the top of it. And that is the first wicket for Denmark. So Brunsgaard with what I think was the 14th ball of the over.
It was all part of the plan.
And I can tell you, she's going to equal the record for the tournament because there's still 2 legitimate balls required in this over. It's far from finished. Wouldn't that be something? Bowl a 16 ball over and have a hat trick at the end. Last 3 balls, who knows? Anything is possible in this game.
Yeah, maybe it's just all part of the plan.
All part of the plan.
Set them up.
Yeah,
she got the last 2 or 3 absolutely spot on.
Yeah, she is a rhythm bowler once she finds her rhythm. She's very good in and away, swinging it away from the right-handers.
I notice you helping some of the Danish bowlers out in the nets there, Jez.
I might have had a word.
I'm not drawing any conclusions from that.
Yeah, well, the wide deliveries weren't part of my plan, but...
Again, she got that right as well. Excellent. She's a good end, this is.
She's a very good bowler. And I imagine in warmer, drier conditions, she'd be more open to charging in harder and really firing the ball down the other end. Because she can bowl with quite a bit of pace. Oh, play and a miss from Nhale.
Yeah, a bit of a nibble.
Well, if she had nicked that through to the keeper, that would have been a disaster for Finland. She went early the other day in Nhale. She got an LBW decision I might describe as a little unlucky. I felt it was definitely going over the top of the stumps, but the umpires decided it was adjacent, and that's good enough.
Well, Finland's 2 in-form batters are out there. Sheridan and Harley, both of them have made 50s in the tournament so far. Sheridan with 83 not out yesterday, and Harley on the first day, Friday afternoon, making a very commendable 56.
Oh, 69.
Was it 69? I beg your pardon. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting confused. 69 off 64, if I remember correctly. I had a little word with her this afternoon when we arrived at the ground, just to congratulate her. I just said go and do it again. So let's see.
Yes, these two are key in this Finnish batting lineup. Two informed batters, striking the ball really, really well. I'm not sure what the batter is asking for here, indicating something to the bench.
It's funny because it's the Danish bench that reacted, not the Finnish one. So I think somebody's coming out with some new bats as she watches that one dismissively.
No, I
down the leg side.
I can see what the issue is. One of the Danish players standing out there under the tent is in full kit, and it looks like they've got an extra fielder down there. So she's just asked her to put a jacket on so that it doesn't look like she's wearing all red, which she has done. Galeka also had a big bowl in the nets earlier today. Another no ball. I wonder what this one's for. Will be a free hit.
It was just off the pitch again.
But she had a big bowl in the nets. She was bowling with good pace and getting the ball to swing away late from the right-handers. She's definitely a handful when she gets it on target. Into the pads of Sheridan, who taps it into the onside. The throw comes in very hard to the keeper. A lot of enthusiasm in that Danish fielding unit. They've been very sprightly on the park and behind the scenes here at the Nordic T20.
I hear.
Oh, there was plenty on that one. It's up in the air. It's going to take some catching. And it's the leg spinner who can't come round to take it. It would have been a difficult catch in these conditions. It was always going away from her. The ball would have been wet. Some precipitation still falling from the sky. Not an easy one to get under. She didn't quite get there, so didn't even get a finger on it in the end.
Yeah, it might have been points catch. I'm not sure. She was running more towards the ball.
Good piece of bowling from Galeka, though. She has found her range and her rhythm. So after those first couple of hiccups, she's now hitting the deck hard. And again, in these conditions with a little bit of moisture in the air and on that AstroTurf, the ball will skid off and skip through to the keeper. So it will carry well.
It also doesn't come off the bat anywhere near as nicely as a dry ball as well, which is an issue for the batters. It tends to just get heavy, the ball. It becomes much harder to hit as well, so that's something for the batters to bear in mind.
Yeah, somewhere between the 8 and 10 over mark in these sort of wet conditions when the white ball starts to absorb a little bit too much moisture. Starts to go a little bit soft. The seam starts to get a little bit greasy for the bowlers. There you go, into the deck, and not much Harley can do with that one.
And then, of course, the outfield, which hasn't been quick at all tournament because it's very green and lush. Slowed down even more by the dampness we've got out there. So it's going to be what we might call a sticky dog of a game, this one.
Yeah, it's a case of who wants it more. Well down the leg side, well taken by the keeper. It's interesting actually, even with the first game, we arrived here this morning, we really did think we were going to get on the park, and the reason was when we had the big fog the other day, it left a lot of moisture on the top of the surface, just sitting on top of the grass. It was very wet indeed, and we played through that because we had clear skies. So even though there was mizzle around this morning, a lot of the moisture wasn't sitting on the surface, and it was actually in better condition than it was when we had clear conditions the other day. And I thought for sure we were going to get that first game underway. But unfortunately, the heavens opened.
Well, Armageddon arrived, didn't it?
Yeah, and it really, really did come down in torrents and hung around too. There isn't much wind around whatsoever here in Gereva. So it has not blown this weather away. So unfortunate that Denmark and Norway couldn't tackle each other this morning, but it's really great that the umpires have shown some initiative this afternoon to say we're going to play through these conditions and that we can get this game. Hang on, the umpires just telling the bowler to stop as one of the fielders goes back into position at long on. But no, it's really, really great that we can get this game underway and in the scorebook.
Yeah, Finland-Estonia was the other game abandoned earlier on today in Tikari. That's a big hit.
That's a huge hit into the onside. It's well over long on and just drops inside the rope. So it will be 4. I'm just signalling to the umpire. I don't think he's looking in my direction, but it's definitely 4, Mr. Umpire. Big hit though. One more foot and it would have been 6. Sheridan striking the ball really, really well after her 83 the other day.
Yeah, that was all bottom hand, wasn't it? A bit of a baseball shot, but great power.
That one isn't going anywhere. Good comeback from the bowler.
She rehearses a beautiful little clip over to mid-wicket after that one.
Yes, Galeka stationed down there at long on. Didn't really have much of a chance at catching that ball, by the way. It was over her head. She came running in and it just kept going. I don't know if Sheridan's got the wind at her back, but it easily cleared Galeka and, like I say, 1 bounce, 4 runs. This one struck up and over the offside. It's skewed off the bat, so it's gone behind point. It's going to be the short third man that runs around, but Sheridan, extremely quick between the wickets, comes back for 2.
Yeah, good running. It's just starting to open up a little bit now. And interestingly, as Brunsgaard has found her line and length a little bit more, it's allowed Sheridan to open up. Oh, she lets that one go by, wide outside the off stump.
Yeah, not too wide though. I can see what Sheridan's trying to do. She's eyeing a huge gap that exists here over mid-off and through the covers because Denmark almost have 2 silly mid-offs in play, or at least a very short mid-off and a silly mid-off. And there she goes, tries to go downtown, and it's the mid-off who's run around, but it's cleared her too. Throw comes back to the bowler's end, and that will settle for a single. She didn't get any of that. It really went nowhere.
Yeah, she's a bit frustrated with herself there. You can tell by her body language.
Just lost her shape trying to strike through the ball. Full ball and a bit of a nutmeg there between Unhale's legs. Good piece of fielding from the walking wounded Delgur. Broken arm and all, running around in the outfield.
Broken arm?
Yeah, well, if you take a close look, you'll notice she's got a cast.
See a cast, yeah. I thought it was just one of those sort of compression things, but she's playing with a broken arm. That wouldn't be advisable, would it?
She's very keen on her cricket. I've had a few conversations with her over the course of this tournament, and she's a very, very keen cricketer. Hello to her husband and family who are watching back in Denmark.
And I wonder they're stationing her just there, behind the batter, almost at a long stop.
Yeah. Low risk. Very full, struck on the pad. Oh, the Danes went up.
A bit belatedly, it was the back pad that it hit.
Yes, well, it's not going over the top of the stumps. That's when you want a little bit of DRS action. I'll pass that along to Cricket Finland to get a DRS system put in here.
I've had enough delays, we don't need that.
Fired into the deck and tap back to the bowler.
That's a good ball. It just took them a little while, didn't the two opening bowlers, to find their rhythm and their routine, but they've been impressive since that mammoth opening first over.
I think it's a tricky one, especially for the bowlers coming on and off the park all day long, in and out of the nets all day long. You know, you're out of a routine, you're eating at the wrong times, all that sort of stuff. Just throw you off. This one is down the leg side, and it's a good take by the keeper.
Yeah, plus no matter what you do and how much you keep warm, you've been outside all day in the damp, and it just eats away at you after a while, doesn't it? No matter what you do to try and keep warm, there's always that feeling, I find, that dampness soaks into the body, and you can always feel a bit stiff in these conditions.
Full ball struck into the onside, but no run there. Yes, we're lucky we're in Finland, home of the sauna. I'm sure a few of the players will take advantage of the fact that Finland likes to hide saunas absolutely anywhere.
Well, you were talking about getting on to Cricket Finland about DRS. Never mind that. I think we need a sauna or a sauna here at the Caravan National Cricket Ground.
Well, they do have the only triple glazed pavilion that I'm aware of anywhere in the world. But I've been talking a lot about them building a grandstand over there on the pavilion side of the ground with enough room underneath it for a whole bunch of indoor cricket nets. It would be great to... Oh, this one skews up and over point. It was a big outside edge, so they'll be looking for two, but no, just the one.
Are you aware of a major sponsorship deal soon?
Well, it's the sort of money down situation that probably needs to come from a local council or government funding, but I would like to think that it would be a multi-purpose facility. So it would be a set of indoor AstroTurf nets that could be used for other indoor activities, but with the stadium seating built over the top of it. And maybe that's part of a 10-year plan. Who knows? But a multi-purpose facility nonetheless, and somewhere a little bit higher up for the likes of us to sit.
I think you get a favourable response from the local authorities if you put in a planning application for a sauna.
Well, I'm saying a facility like that would have a sauna built into it. I'm putting it on the wish list. Swing and a miss. That one's skidding through under the bat.
Just in the other game, Norway making rather tortuous progress against Sweden, 47 for 6 in the 15th over. Sweden will be looking to go through the tournament completely unbeaten.
They do have a very good bowling attack, the Swedes. They've spent most of this tournament over in Tukurila, so I haven't got to see as much of them as I would like to have. But unquestionably the strongest side in this tournament, and I'm not sure they can be beaten actually. I think they're going to be the winners of the Nordic T20. I do the maths quickly, but I'm fairly certain. Struck firmly into the leg side, plenty of wide open spaces. It's Nielsen who's doing the running around out there in the deep. She's incredibly quick. She's got a really good
terrific arm as
throwing arm, and she was heating it up in the nets. Haven't seen her bowl in this tournament as yet. I don't know if we'll see her bowl today, but she has got a real lick of pace about her. And if we're lucky enough to see her at the bowling crease today, something to write home about.
Yeah, that was a good arm from her. She's very lithe and athletic. She's also doing the nightmare trip. She's been fielding at deep mid-wicket from one end, and now she's made the long trip right across to the other side of the pitch to deep mid-wicket on that side.
Yeah.
So that's keeping her fit.
Yeah. I hate to think just how many steps that would add up to in a very short period of time, but it's a long way to run in between each and every over. I mean, we can talk about her coming on to bowl. She might not be able to walk. This one struck out towards her, skidding across the outfield. A really wonderful dive from Nielsen, and she's safe 4. What a great piece of fielding that was.
That is terrific stuff. Brilliant ground fielding, and the throw back in as well. Like a bullet, terrific stuff.
Yeah, down and dirty in the deep.
That's some of the best fielding I've seen all weekend.
Tremendous strike from Sheridan, but Nielsen was equal to it. This one's popped up on the offside, and it's again going to fall into no man's land. Shy at the stumps, but they're home safely. It is Afros, by the way, who is bowling this over. She's come on into the attack at the village end.
Yeah, a few aerial balls and a little bit of luck for Sheridan. I think she was 83 she made the other day, which she dropped about 5 or 6 times in the Estonia game. Not any drops as such yet.
No.
Perhaps what you might call a chance, but no hands to the ball as of yet.
Yeah, we'll call that one half a chance. Into the deck and forced away into the onside. Plenty of cover though. The more time the ball spends going along the deck, the slower it's going to go. That's really been the advantage with Sheridan hitting over the top.
One thing I have noticed so far about Denmark is they are very adept in the field. One of the best fielding outfits I've seen this weekend.
Slower ball down the leg side, and that will be a wide.
And they were doing an awful lot of fielding drills earlier today while waiting for the game to start, and it's paying off because they look very well drilled.
Yes, their coach standing down there at third man, watching on keenly. He'll really want a victory out of this team today. Floated up and struck into the onside, but not out of the middle of the bat, and it is Nielsen who will come in off the boundary to keep it to 1.
Yeah, she's getting through some work out there, isn't she? And you could tell from the batters' body language there that as soon as they knew the ball was going out there, they weren't even going to think about a second, which they would to a great many other fielders, perhaps.
Floated up and struck on the pad. The umpire is having none of it. Walks away. Yeah, there's plenty of bowling as well in this Danish side, and they've got lots and lots of options that they can turn to. I'm just looking around the park at the 11 that they put out there today, and every single one of them can roll their arm over. Swing and a miss. Actually, just double checking who's out there. It looks like Brock Nielsen is sitting out. Long time opening bowler for Denmark, so they've put the youth out on the park for the most part. I think we would have seen 2 very different 11s had this morning's game gone ahead, and it's another wonderful piece of fielding down there at deep square leg by Nielsen. She has thrown herself around, saved another boundary, and indicated clearly there to the umpire that she kept that ball in play, so saved a couple.
And she makes the long trip across the ground to the other side. She's been very impressive, as Denmark have in the field. But that was a good shot from Sheridan. Again, just rolling the bottom hand over the shot a little to keep the ball down and out of the air, and getting a little bit more reward from it. So a bit more control, and in the end a bit more power as well in the shot. But they immediately saw that it was heading to Nielsen, even though it was a good probably 20 metres to her right that she had to make up, so they easily got home for a couple. Sheridan moving to 15 from 17, so not a bad start at all from either side really, if you just bar the wides for Denmark's side. 38 for 1 after 5.
That's a wonderful strike over the leg side, a little drop kick from Nhali, but once again it's Nielsen who's getting dirty out there in the deep and fires it back in. I've talked about players possibly getting a chance maybe in the future to be a part of the fair break T20 competition. She is one that I would put a name in the book for and suggest people keep an eye on. She's a really good team player and throwing herself around out there. This one struck firmly into the offside, past point. Who will chase it down? But yeah, I think 39 for 1 Finland were at the end of the power play. So I'd say Finland's slightly ahead at this stage, but you can tell that this is a close game.
Yeah, there's some really good cricket being played by both sides. The two batters look to be into their rhythm now. The bowlers have got a little bit more rhythm and the fielding's been excellent. So some brightness amid the darkened afternoon here in Kerava.
Yes, and in fairness, and I don't know if you can tell on your screen at home, it is getting gloomier here right now. It is pretty dark out there in the middle. If we were playing with a red ball today, I think they'd be taking us off at this stage. As it is, it's a white ball, and we will continue. Galeka now jams it into the deck, pulled hard and flat into the leg side by Sheridan. Again, Nielsen making huge meters to get around. Oh, the throw comes into the bowler's end. Oh, she could have been run out so very easily. If anything, that throw from the boundary was too hard.
It was just a phenomenal throw. I mean, I've seen plenty of cricket here, and I've watched a lot of adult men's matches where the fielders have got nowhere near an arm like that. That was terrific throw. It was too hard. Went over the fielder standing at the stumps, over her head a little bit. It was just too hard.
Absolute cannon of an arm. Yes, if there's any scouts watching, Ronja Nielsen, write that name down. This one struck down the ground. This is another name you could put in your logbook. And Harley, she's looked quality all tournament long.
And she looks a little more comfortable in this innings than she did at the start of the one where she made 69. She was a little bit scratchy for that one on Friday, but it was the first game of the tournament for them. And she just looks really at ease at the moment.
Oh, that looks like a good shout. She's got her, the Yorker, on the toe. And Sheridan has to make her way back to the pavilion. A wonderful piece of bowling from Galeka. Firing it in full, hard and straight. Catching Sheridan on the toe. And she has got to go.
Yeah, I mean, we are not behind the bowler's arm or even the batsman by any stretch of the imagination. But just the shape of Sheridan there, it just seemed that she was on her way as soon as that hit the pads. It had everything going for it, even from our rather dodgy angle, but a good effort from her. 16 off 19. She kept the impetus going right from the very start and helped get her team to a decent stage. 44 for 2 in the 6th.
So Sheridan and Nguyen shared a partnership of 140 the other day. Nguyen now coming out to join Unhali. Left-hander. Took time herself to find her range the other day, but finished the innings well with a couple of mighty strikes back over the bowler's head for 4 in the final over. Can certainly swing the willow. This will be an interesting challenge for Denmark with the left-hand, right-hand combination out there. I certainly hope they don't make Nielsen run the full width of the park every time the batters change ends.
She'd probably do it.
I think I would die from the guilt.
Yeah, but just honestly, when you get a player like that in your team that's prepared to do that, it's worth its weight in gold. It really is. But no wonder they post her where they do with that arm of hers. But she's come up inside the ring, I think, now at mid-off.
Yeah, I'm really hoping we get to see her bowl today, but I'm not so sure we will. That one's down the leg side. Galeka throws her head back. But like I say, there are plenty of bowling options in this Danish side. All of them capable of rolling the arm over. And I do wonder, with this being the last game of the tournament, if we might see a few of them get a go. It's tapped into the leg side. But yes, Brock Nielsen sitting on the sidelines. They call her the bowling machine. She's metronomic, always gets it in the right spot.
Any reason? Do you know? Is she picked up an injury or carrying anything, or is it?
I think with a tournament like this one, there's a real interest in developing players and making sure that absolutely everyone gets a game. So I imagine it's a squad rotation thing more than anything else.
There's plenty of singing going on out there.
Yes, the chants are brilliant. I've enjoyed them all tournament long.
We have, I am reliably informed by you, a cheerleader in the Danish side.
Yes, Emma. She's out there at square leg, I think. Yeah, this is the first time that we've seen Delgur bowl in this tournament. Well, certainly that I've seen her bowl in this tournament. Bowls left arm darts.
Whoa.
Oh, she's gone through and Harley there. She's got a funny little knack to angle it in and then just get it to nibble away.
That's the extra weight of the cast on the lead hand, isn't it? It's just allowing her to get through the action a bit more.
She's cue-ended this one into the leg side and it.
I'm so worried for her. If you say she's got a broken arm, I just don't want her to run into a batsman by accident or slip and fall on that and damage it even more.
Well, she did that the other day and she told me she was in some substantial pain, but she wouldn't trade this for anything. A chance to represent her country. This one struck firmly out into the leg side, and again it's Nielsen who will run round the rope to haul it in, and they'll just have the one. Well, how about that for a throw from the boundary through the stumps down?
You see, going back to the broken arm issue, I mean, you've got Nielsen flinging that in from 50 or 60 yards. I wouldn't want to be standing behind the stumps either, because she was there to field the ball. It just takes a quick ricochet off the stumps and into that arm, and you're in all sorts of trouble again. So I'd be telling one of her teammates, listen, come on, up to the stumps, please.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll do the backing up.
Delgur switching to over the wicket to bowl to the left-hander. Plenty of air on that and helped well over the leg side. Almost carries to the fielder out there at mid-wicket. Again, the throw comes in, so just the one.
Yeah, very good shot, but very good fielding. Just made sure that they picked it up on the bounce. Watched for the spin.
She just picked her out, didn't she? If she had been a few metres either side of that fielder, it was probably 4. Again, so much air struck out to long off, where Galeka will clean up and keep it to 1. Again, nobody helping out the bowler.
Really don't. I'm so worried for her.
Well, like I was saying, she did take a tumble the other day. She was in substantial pain. And her plan is, as soon as she gets back to Denmark, is to get that cast off, get it x-rayed once again, see if there's any extra damage, and then get the cast back on. So that's a lot of commitment, playing for your nation.
That's above and beyond, isn't it? The call of duty. 48 for 2 then after 7. Reminder that this is a 16-over game.
Now the rain getting a little heavy out there in the middle, and the umpires are coming together.
I think there's a delay coming.
My hope is that the umpires will say, let's give this an over. Let's just see if this blows through. I don't want to see the covers go on or the players come off. Let's just stay out there for the time being. And that is the decision. So good on the umpires. It's nice to see that attitude from them out there in the middle.
Norway 50 for 8 in the 17th over. They're playing 18 overs at Tikkurila against Sweden.
So it is Anderson who's going to come into the attack. Got a player of the match award the other day. She gives the ball a lot of flight And as she does so, gets a lot of bounce off these trampoline-like artificial wickets. It can be very, very hard for the batters to hit. Just waiting there. You can see the timing of Unhali completely out of tempo because there's no pace on that delivery whatsoever.
No, and it does bounce. I mean, that was a wide, so she can be forgiven for there. But with the height of the trajectory of the ball, it bounces as well.
That one's a little bit flatter, and so she's able to get on top of the ball and strike this one out towards the cover boundary. The ball will pull up because of all that moisture that's out there, and another huge throw. Brunsgaard, the opening bowler, also with a cannon arm.
Goodness me.
That was a heck of a throw.
Arm.
That was a heck of a throw. It didn't even look like she was trying. Waits this time, strikes it into the leg side. Nielsen will clean it up and get it back for just the single. Ball lands on the full, on the pitch, and takes off. So some really good backing up.
Been very impressed with Denmark in the field. Finland are going along nicely, but Denmark have really shone. Really well drilled fielding outfit. I really like to see that.
One of the things that's really impressive is the way they move into position. No one is walking, everyone runs into position. It's a really, really good attitude. Be interesting to see how Nguyen handles Anderson. Gets on top of that one, works it around the corner. Dalgur chasing it down, but
here comes the throw.
On the bounce to the keeper. You can tell she was holding back.
That was measured, wasn't it, that one?
I'd love to see a throwing competition, actually, between Brunsgaard and Nielsen, see who could throw the ball the furthest.
What if the Danish Javelin Association has come across these two?
Oh, they can keep their hands off, thanks. I remember I was at a New Zealand warm-up at the Basin Reserve, which is not a small cricket ground. I remember Chris Kens throwing the ball the full width of the park one day. And just thinking, how? But he was a big boy, big shoulders, and wish him all the best in his recovery from his heart attack and his stroke and his cancer and everything else that he's going through at the moment. Terrible time for Chris Kens.
He's had a rough time in the last few years, hasn't he?
My understanding is, though, for the first time in many months, he stood up unaided. So there's hope that he will walk again, and that's just wonderful news for someone who's facing that kind of adversity and setting that sort of an example for the rest of us. How do you play that? It's just tennis ball bounce.
Tricky, really tricky.
It's really, really tricky. And there's some shrugging there from Nguyen.
Because you try to make too much room for yourself with deliveries like that, you end up treading on your stumps.
There you go, she's trying to get on top of the bounce and strike it into the leg side, but the ball's bouncing so much. She's really, really struggling to stay over the top of it. So a dot ball, and the two batters will come together for a conversation.
So halfway through then the innings, 16 overs reduced to. Norway have finished their 18 overs at Tikkurila against Sweden and were bowled out on the final ball. It looks like 58 all out. So you would back Sweden to chase that down with ease to make it an unbeaten tournament for the Swedes.
If you're worried that this might be a rain delay, it's not. We're simply taking the drinks break at the halfway mark. So because this is 16 overs a side instead of 20, we're having the drinks break at 8 overs instead of 10. This is the card so far. Stella Sheridan out LBW to Galeka. A good Yorker, caught her on the toe. Not much she could do about that one. The umpire did not hesitate to raise the finger. And W. Garaja got a Yorker from Brunsgaard during what was a very long over, 16 balls I think it was in the end. But on the 14th ball of that over, she got it under the bat and cleaned up that leg stump. As it sits currently on Halle and Nguyen at the crease, putting a partnership together. Finland 55 for 2 after 8 overs. And you wonder how far they could push it out. I think 120 would be very competitive here today.
Yeah, needs one of these to really push on and to be there at the end of the 16 overs if they're going to threaten 120. But they've put up some big totals in this tournament so far, Finland. 120 odd, 160 odd over the full 20 overs, of course. Just 16 here. But you'd back them to do that. If one of these gets going, then they should quite easily double their score from here and take themselves close to 120.
I think that needs to be the target today. The Danish openers in particular are a powerhouse duo. They've had a couple of issues running between the wickets, but if they're smart about the way they go about their game and they get a good start, then I believe they can chase pretty much anything out here. But if Finland can pick up a couple of early wickets and get amongst the Danish minds, perhaps they can apply some pressure, and we know how that would end. Denmark bowled out for just 35 the other day against Sweden. They weren't too happy about that. They'll be less happy I'm even bringing it up. This one floated up and smashed into the onside. There'll be no one under that. It'll pitch and stop because of the wet outfield. Should be 2, but they've only run 1, so
yeah,
not quite sure why the batters didn't turn and go there.
Wary perhaps of the fielder.
Well, it was always 2 runs there, really.
Yeah, nice little approach shot, but it just plugged, didn't it?
Yeah. It was Krastjonsson who tracked that one down. I know a little bit more about her now than I did at the start of the tournament. Her favourite animal is the moose. And I learned the other day that the Danish word for moose basically translates to floppy horse.
Did you ask that?
Now they offered that information. Oh, yorked, but it was a no ball.
Just wondering how you found out that her favourite animal was a moose. It's not the kind of question you generally ask a cricketer.
She was quite keen to go to the zoo here and see a moose. I think she wanted to get a photo with one and send it back to her daughter. Oh, well, she ran past that one. The keeper very quick to get the bails off, but when Harley got back, so the umpire will wander across and put the bails back on, but she was very, very keen to go and see a moose.
Did she get to the zoo?
I don't believe she did. They've been very busy. It's been a tight weekend. There was a lot of discussion about what the plural for moose might be.
Moose.
Yes, the plural for moose is moose, but she'd like the world to know, and especially her daughter, that the plural should be moosies.
Well, it's a shame if she didn't get to the wonderful Korkeasaari Zoo in Helsinki, which is one of the finest zoos I've ever been to, out on an island there. Just off the archipelago of Helsinki, and they've got some fine specimens of elks, as we call them in Europe.
It's a wonderful facility, and even the boat ride out to the zoo is lovely through the fjords here and out to the island, which you can walk all over. The zoo takes up the entire island, but I don't know if they've got any moosies.
Yeah. They've got elk.
Little bottom edge there, through to the keeper.
Just go and find out for yourself. I think it's worth a visit while you're here, Jez.
Track down a floppy horse.
Yep. It's Plenty of those there as well.
I wouldn't know what to do with one. Well weighted by Nguyen there, and it is a misfield from Krasjonsson, but she recovers, and the batters decide not to run. So,
yeah, I think there was
just
one
a
there
dot.
again.
Yep, yep. Yeah. I think Finland need to show a little bit more intent here.
Yeah, they're being squeezed, aren't they, at the moment? And that's what happens when you have a well-drilled fielding outfit.
And this outfit are well drilled.
Brilliant they are. Very impressed with their fielding today, Denmark, and just the energy and the organisation in the field. Like you say, they all know their positions. They're all into position quickly. They've got a right arm, left arm combination, but there's no hesitation changing the field between the two batters when they exchange ends.
They've got a can-do attitude. This one struck firmly into the onside and just over the top of one of the players who looks like she's...
Hurt herself here.
I don't know if she's got a dodgy ankle or something. She didn't hurt herself coming down. She hurt herself going up. It was her attempt to jump up in the air, which has caused something to twinge.
Oh, maybe a little pull in the hamstring.
Yeah.
Just stretching, perhaps.
A calf or a hamstring.
She seems okay, though.
Yeah, she's going to carry on. But it wasn't a case of her slipping in the outfield and doing an injury at all. It was the exertion shown that caused her to come up lame there.
A bit like a floppy horse.
Well, I can't speak for the lame, floppy horses of this world, but I assume many of them are.
Oh, she's okay. Just a bit of muscle cramp, maybe. The dampness gets into the muscles.
Well, they've had no shortage of training today. This one helped up and over the leg side. It's skipping away down the hill there towards the pavilion, and it will go for 4. Nielsen couldn't get across to cut that one off, and Dalgur couldn't catch up with it. So a good boundary, and the two batters celebrate in the middle.
Yeah, that's the shot of the innings so far. She just helped it on its way, picked the spot behind square on the leg side, and just used the pace of the ball and her bottom hand to just guide it down there. That was a terrific shot. She really needs to roll a few more of those out and put the accelerator down a little bit.
There is a change in the field now with a sort of wide fine leg, somewhere close to a backward square, standing 2/3 of the way back to cut that shot off.
Well, I hope there's no top edge goes flying towards her, because I think we should be seeing a one-handed catch from the player there with the cast on her arm.
This one forced through point, and it's Anderson who'll chase it down. A relay throw goes back. That's another one there who I'd like to see at the bowling crease.
The rain threatened to get a little heavier a few moments ago, but it seems to have settled back into a sort of gentle mizzle here at Kerava. Another change in the field, so that fielder with the arm cast on is making her way to the other side of the ground at that sort of wide fine leg position, but for the left-hander. And that's where Nguyen was looking to hit her. Instead, there could be a chance here. No, very quick between the wickets. Divija, Unhali and Nguyen, and Anderson couldn't cut them off. On that occasion, as the field changes again for the right-hander, and yes, another big trek for our deep fine leg fielder. She takes up her position behind square on the leg side to the right-hander, Unhali. This one just dribbles through off the mat, I think, called a wide.
Yes, the fielder there covers the other one I would like to see at the bowling crease. Slipsat. Not seen her bowl yet in this tournament, but one of the players I did a little bit of rudimentary work with in the nets, and very keen to see her tear in and have a bowl. This one down the leg side, and it will be a wide.
Yeah, they eased off on the wides a bit, but they seem to have crept back in again.
Well, it is damp out there. It won't be easy holding that ball. This is about the time when the white ball absorbs just a bit too much moisture. There's a good dive over there at mid-off, but couldn't cut it off. They'll get through for a single. But yeah, about the 8 to 10 over mark in these sorts of conditions, the water starts to get into the ball, the seam starts to almost sweat. It's the oils coming out of the leather, and the ball goes a little bit soapy, as we say, around the seam. It can be very hard to hang on to for a bowler.
Oh, with a 10 ball over so far, I think. Certainly close to that. She goes around the wicket now to Ing Yoon.
All the determination in the world on her face. You can see the Danish trousers all around the park, covered in mud. Swing and a miss outside off, but I can tell you some of those players have not been diving around. It's just the design on the trousers that lends itself to the idea that they might have been throwing themselves around.
Well, for a fielding side that likes to throw themselves around, it's a good piece of design. Perhaps to hide the real dirt that is accumulated as they throw themselves around soggy outfields like this at Kerava. Change of bowling again.
There's the opener, Brunsgaard, who's going to come back into the attack. Cool as a cucumber.
And Harley 21 then off 33. And she hit a 69. She got a strike rate above 100 on that occasion. She needs to perhaps try and do the same here.
Just tapped on its head and out to point. I don't know officially what the bowling limitations are in this game. I assume with us losing 4 overs per side that bowlers will be limited to 3 overs rather than 4, but that is an assumption on my part. I can tell you though, at the other game in Tikurila, Norway were bowled out having faced their full allotment, so out off the final ball of their innings for 58. Well, they'll be making Sweden sweat right now because Sweden 4 for 2 in the second over. That game could be a lot closer than anticipated, as that one is left through to the keeper and given wide by the umpire.
Shame, because she got some real nip on that ball. Again, just taking their time to find the radar.
Yes, I think if I was working with these players again, I would be encouraging them to bowl full steam. Oh, that's a wonderful catch. Krastjansson, hands well above her head, not taking it in a typical fashion at all. Stuck the hands out, and even in these wet conditions, it has stuck in the hand. It's a Statue of Liberty play, and she is the Statue of Liberty.
That was a great catch. I thought she spilt it for a moment because she was twisting and turning and pirouetting after taking the catch. But she's very tall. I think for some of her teammates that might have sailed over their heads. But she reached out with those long limbs and grasped it to her. It was a very good catch because she had her back to the square by the time she'd taken it. So good effort there. And Harley's innings, 21 off 36, comes to an end. She'll be a bit disappointed with herself.
I can tell you, while she was excited to take that catch, she'll be even more excited to hear you describe her as tall. Perhaps she just seems tall from our vantage point.
Well, it looks tall to me.
She certainly grew a foot when she threw those arms up in the air to take that catch. This one struck into the offside, and it's 2 and 2 balls.
Medium-sized catcher there.
Well, the captain of Finland, Mulipati, she didn't give herself much time to set herself. The ball came through at a length, and she just tapped it into the offside, and the catch easily taken there. And wouldn't you know it, Brunsgaard, she's on a hat-trick.
Wow. She slapped at that one a little bit. So what are they going to do now? Are they going to bring the field in just to give her a chance or not?
I've seen a couple of hat-trick opportunities in this tournament, and on neither occasion did the sides change their field whatsoever.
I always think that's a good idea. It's got you 2 wickets before, why change it?
I think that's what we're going to see here. No one is out of position. It's the exact same field. It is Riakula who's come out to the middle and taking guard.
I fancy a Yorker.
Well, let's see if she puts the heat on this one. No, it's down the leg side and a wide. Oh dear. Well, it's not the hat-trick ball of her dreams, but she's got 2 and 2. And she's turned this finish innings on its head as Unhale and Mulipati sit back in the hutch. Certainly dents Finland's chances of getting to 120. This one again, down the leg side. The keeper tries to parry it down, but it runs down towards the boundary, and they run through for a second extra. Good arm there from Dalgur as well. I'd like to go back to that catch by Krastjonsson. It was a goodie. She was running back. The ball was well up over her head. She had her hands fully extended above her head to take that catch. And I can tell you, when she pulled that hand down out of the sky and it had a ball in it, she was as surprised as any of us. It was a great take. This one struck up and over into the offside, and it's Nielsen running around and taking the catch. 3 in the over. Can you believe it? Finland imploding here. Nguyen, the set batter, has popped it up on the offside. Nielsen, confident as you like, runs round under that ball, takes it comfortably, and Brunsgaard, 3 wickets in the over.
3 and 4, punctuated only by a wide. She'll be gutted with herself, won't she, for that wide, but 3 and 4, wow, terrific stuff.
Oh, she's turned this game on its head in this over. What a comeback for her. The umpire's now signalling for the covers. Now, I don't agree. And I know I might seem a little one-eyed at different times today in regards to the weather, but I just feel like they could let this blow through. Perhaps the umpire's feeling that Finland are at a disadvantage in this weather, having lost 3 wickets in that over, and that they need an opportunity to reset, or that the weather perhaps played a part in those 3 wickets. I don't personally think it did.
No, it's not. The weather hasn't changed for the whole innings, really. I mean,
No.
It's just been slightly harder than it was a few moments ago, but that's not making any difference to how you're hitting the ball. That's just one of those things.
No. And the weather now is slightly heavier, but I don't expect it to stay. I do have the weather radar on my phone. I'll look it up very quickly. As we have a look at this finished scorecard. You can see there those 3 wickets in the last over. Unhale caught brilliantly by Krastjonsson, well above her head with that Statue of Liberty play. Then it was Mulipati who was trying to slap one into the offside. Bounced a bit on it. And Slipsaya took a comfortable catch. And then Nguyen trying to hit over the top of the offside. Had to deal with the speed of Nielsen as she ran around to take a comfortable catch and give Brunsgaard the third wicket in the over. What a tremendous over it was from her. Her first over, of course, 16 balls long. What a comeback.
Now I'm looking at that radar you're talking about on the Finnish Meteorological Association's website. I can't see any sign of any rain on the radar at all, and yet right before our eyes I can assure you that is rain. So I'm not quite sure what radar that's picking up.
I'm just having a look at a different rain radar to see if there's any difference at all. I don't know quite exactly where we are on the map, but would you say that that little shower is right above us?
I would say it's a small shower. In fact, there is something just going past, but that was an hour ago according to this.
I get the feeling like this might be the only place in Finland where it's currently raining.
Yeah, it looks that way on the app that I'm looking at. Oh well, we can't lie. It is raining, folks, so...
Well, I don't know if the bowlers are limited to just the 3 overs, but if they are, it's a little bit of daylight robbery because Sine Brunsgaard is sitting on 4 for 24. She's got 1 ball to come in this over. A chance to pick up an international 5-wicket bag. If she gets a 4th over, of course, she'll get a few more deliveries, but she may be limited to just 3. So,
but this is what baffles me. They brought the covers on, but they're not on the strip.
No, what they do here is they bring out the trolley covers, which they put over the run-ups, which join the artificial surface, so they protect the run-ups for the bowlers, which is often where they have a lot of the greatest difficulty in terms of danger to the players. But the central mat itself left uncovered for the time being. They do have tarpaulins to cover the artificial surface, but not utilising it just this second. You can see on your TV screen that the air out there looks a little thick, but it's a little misleading. If you are out in it, you'll see that there aren't too many umbrellas up. It's much more a case of a light jacket and more nuisance weather than anything else. It's not a downpour by any stretch of the imagination. The umpire nearly run over by the lawnmower there. Might be his first time driving that machine. Do you need a license to drive a lawnmower in Finland?
You didn't see because it's out of shot, but away to my left, when he came racing on with the covers, almost jackknifed them behind him. Lost control. That would have been chaotic, but yeah, on a public road that wouldn't be acceptable.
He might be on his learner's license for that lawnmower.
He's just trying to explain to the umpires, he's not turning when I turn. Look at him. That's Varma, one of our terrific volunteers here at Kerava, who've helped this Nordic Cup be organised the way it has been. It's a good time to give a shout out to all those who've been involved in organising this.
Absolutely, and we look forward to next year's competition too. Quite a bit of discussion about where that will be. Not here in Finland, it'll be in one of the other Nordic nations. Waiting to see exactly which one wants to put their hand up. A lot of discussion about who will be hosting it in 2025, but for 2024, yet to be ascertained. But it's going to be great. It's going to be a great competition. A lot of talk about the facilities that are available in the likes of Norway and Sweden and Denmark and Estonia. All places where the game is flourishing and growing. It's going to be really, really good to see this tournament take place in one of those nations. And if we're really, really lucky, Richard, maybe we will be there.
Well, that would be very nice. That would be very nice indeed.
ever taken any holidays around the other Nordic nations yourself?
Nothing prolonged. But I'm involved in plenty of cricketing things in Norway and Estonia. Not so far in Denmark and Sweden. But very tight-knit little group of nations up here, forming our own little clique within the ICC Europe family, helping each other out with various things, and it has been a terrific incentive and tournament, this Nordic Cup. And I think just at the course of 3 days, you've seen the standard of many of the players and teams just improve from just playing, and they've got to do all they can, as far as I'm concerned, to keep this initiative going, because it's a wonderful outlet for them. And it just can only, with the coverage of course that's being given to this, can only encourage more and more people to take up the game, more women to come into the game and see what can be done.
This man cannot drive a lawnmower.
I'm going to have a word with him. I'm going to have a word.
I don't know that he realises that the wheel behind him is the one that turns when he turns the steering wheel. At least he doesn't have the mower going.
Yeah,
it's
that's what I was saying.
just going for a roll.
Don't show him where the mower controls are. Just don't even bring it into his vision. I just parked it safely and turned the ignition off, which is a good thing for everybody.
I really hope those lawnmowers have a handbrake. Yes, I've enjoyed my time when I've got the opportunity to go over to Estonia and be in Tallinn. It's a wonderful city. And I've spent some time in Sweden too, up in Gothenburg and Stockholm. Again, wonderful parts of the world. I've not been fortunate enough yet to spend time in Denmark or in Norway, in either of those countries outside of their airports, as I'm changing planes and flying places. But certainly they talk warmly about the players they have, the facilities that are continuing to grow and be invested in, and how the game continues to develop and grow, especially since the ICC gave these games between nations at the T20 level full international status. It really has changed the approach of so many nations, because these games matter. And if you stick at it, you too can qualify for a World Cup. And I think it's absolutely within the wheelhouse of at least one of these nations to make it to a World Cup within the next 10 years. And that's really heartwarming.
Unlike the weather, just to introduce a sour note, but let's hope we can get out there again. I'll be losing some more overs. 16 was the scheduled number for this match. Just checking to see whether they're playing in Tikkurila down in Vantaa at the moment. Sweden were looked on to be chasing a very small total, 59 to win, but last time we checked they were 9 for 2 after 3.
Well, they're currently 19 for 3 after 5, so it's an official game. So I'm not quite sure what the Duckworth-Lewis situation would be there if they have gone off the ground, but I suspect, eyeballing it from here, Sweden would be behind the rate. That's a guess. But yeah, Norway, 58 all out after 18 overs. Sweden 19 for 3 after 5. I think that'd be behind the rate. It's hard to guess. It's hard to guess. I don't have the sheet in front of me for that game, but it would be tight. It would certainly be very, very tight indeed. That is, of course, if they are off the park over there in Tikkurila, if they're dealing with the same sort of weather that we are. Because here in Galeka, Finland, 77 for 5. Still 5 overs to go in their innings as they try to reach triple figures. Earlier we were talking about whether or not they could make it to 120. I think they'd be happy just to get to 100 now. Looks to me like play is still underway over there in Tukurila. So clearly this is the only place that it's currently raining in Finland. Sweden 23 for 3 now. So Norway, they'll need to take a few more wickets if they're to trouble Sweden. In fact, well, you're defending 58. You've got to bowl the opposition out, don't you? Just to run over what's been happening here in Kirava once again. Finland batting in very damp conditions. Have amassed 77 for 5 after 10.5 overs. They've had a little collapse in this 11th over. Brunsgaard picking up 3 wickets in this last over before they went off for the rain delay. So Denmark really denting Finland's chance of pushing that score up towards 3 figures. The projected score currently 113, but I feel somewhat with the tail coming into bat that may be wishful thinking. Unhali, she's the top scorer so far with 21. And Sheridan, the opener, out LBW for 16. Galeka catching her on the toe. Pick of the bowlers for Denmark so far. Brunsgaard, 4 for 24. If there's one player in either of these lineups who would love to be back out there, it's her. She's got 1 ball left in this spell to try and pick up a 5-for. And who wouldn't want a 5-wicket haul at international level? Just looking at the rain around the ground. Check with our weatherman Richard Savage how heavy it might be.
Well, I wouldn't want to be playing in it, put it that way. It is a little heavier than you think, looking out from our little shed here at Kerava. It's persistent and a little more than mizzle now. It's just sort of set in a bit. It doesn't seem particularly breezy, so it doesn't look like this seems to be going anywhere, whatever the radar tells us.
No, not a breath of wind, nothing.
Umbrellas up. Umpires are carrying umbrellas. Well, they've been quite hardy thus far not having umbrellas up, but when they're putting umbrellas up, then they know they've had enough. There's a couple of the Danish players come out and do a little bit of warming up.
I do wonder whether or not we'll actually see any more batting from Finland. They may call it for the finish innings and just send the Danes out to try and chase whatever total comes out of the DLS.
We must be losing overs. There is a cut-off time of 10 to 7 when this game ought to be finished for a result, which is now only, 35 minutes away.
Yeah, well,
so they'll be losing overs. You could probably say that's the end of the finish effort now.
I mean, that's the cut-off for getting back on the park. So basically, I think we need to get back out there by 10 to 7 in order to get through those final 5 overs.
And 7:15 is the absolute cut-off. So you'd probably say now they've lost 2 overs, at least. And they only had 16 to start with. We're in the 11th, so yeah.
Sweden, though, they've lost another wicket. 24 for 4 in the 7th over as they try to chase down Norway's total of 58. It's turning into a bit of a thriller over there.
Yeah, it's not a million miles away. They seem to have got away with it, unlike here. There doesn't seem to be much action. The umpires have disappeared and are over in the pavilion with their umbrellas, so they don't look like they're going to be rushing out imminently. Might perhaps go and have a word with them and just double check all the regulations and time cut-off points, etc.
So
and report back.
we will have ourselves a cup of tea. You can have one too. Keep the stream on in the background, eyes wide open, because this could restart at any time. But in the interim, maybe have a look at that other game between Norway and Sweden as we finish up the Nordic T20 here in Finland. Join us back here soon. Well, it's unfortunate news here from Kerava, the National Cricket Ground north of Vantaa, outside of Helsinki here in Finland. The Nordic T20 has ended in a little bit of a damp squib here. The two teams, Denmark and Finland, currently shaking hands. We managed to get out there for 10.5 overs this afternoon, but otherwise a frustrating day with the weather here in Finland. This morning's game between Denmark and Norway was rained off, no result. And this afternoon, much the same. No result here either. Got a feel for Brunsgaard. She finished with 4 for 24 from just 2.5 overs. That's an international fiver that goes begging. I'm sure she would have loved to keep steaming in. I can tell you in the other match, however, Tukurila, Sweden did eventually overcome Norway after a bit of a scare. Norway bowled out for just 58, even though they batted a full 18 overs of their allotted 18 overs. The game there also reduced by rain. But they really put a cat amongst the pigeons. Sweden finishing 6 down for just 60. What Norway wouldn't have given for another 20 runs, I think. It does mean in the end that the Nordic T20, the inaugural Nordic T20, goes to Sweden. Congratulations to them. They played wonderful cricket across the entirety of the tournament and finished undefeated. Lots of warm applause and support for each other over there in the benches. Denmark and Finland congratulating themselves and each other on what was a very good tournament between these 5 nations: Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland and Estonia. But in the end, on this final day of the tournament, it's the weather who has the say here in Kerava. It's wonderful that they got that game completed in Tukurila, but over here, the weather set in, and without a breath of wind to blow it away, it has just sat over the ground. No serious rain at all, just really frustrating, persistent mizzle. One of those things. Richard Savage joins me back here in the commentary position now. Richard, how would you like to reflect on this particular tournament?
Well, I haven't been fortunate enough to see all of the games that have been played, but from what I have seen, I've been mightily impressed by, 1, the organisation of the whole tournament, 2, the enthusiasm of all the nations, 3, from a personal perspective, the growth of Finland, and don't forget they're the only team, or the only nation here that doesn't have that international status, which will come if we can just increase the numbers playing, and tournaments like this and the success of the Finnish national team can only make things better and encourage more to take up the game and come along and enjoy what it has to offer and play their part, whether it be at a recreational level or a more competitive level. If we just get a few more numbers up over the coming years, then hopefully this Nordic Cup might see Finland pushing the likes of Sweden in a few years' time, and they can only do that by making sure that this kind of tournament is repeated, as we've talked about incessantly over the weekend. This has to continue. It's a wonderful initiative, and it's just been a joy to be here.
Yes, that's the word from all of the coaches and managers from throughout the Nordic cricketing world. More regular cricket for the women, and I couldn't agree more. There's a lot of talent, and a lot of these players have the potential to go further and perhaps even appear in some of the franchise tournaments around the world. If they stick to their guns, stick to their cricket.
Well, just from a personal point of view, because I've been involved in coaching some of the women in that side, the improvement in such a short space of time has been enormous, and I'm sure that the same will be told from the perspective of Denmark, Sweden, Estonia, and Norway as well. So a lot can be achieved in such a short space of time with just the resources behind it, or the volunteer coaches that we have in all these nations, because most of us are doing it for, not as a job, as a passion, as a voluntary thing. But the improvement in such a short space of time has been enormous from what I can see, and just imagine where this can go in the next few years if we keep on doing what we're doing now.
So if we quickly reflect on the game that we had here in Kerava, Finland, they made 77 for 5 after their 10.5 overs. They came off at that point because of the rain, but in that preceding over, right before we came off, it was Brunsgaard who picked up 3 wickets in that over to finish with 4 for 24 from 2.5 overs. Onhale, she was the top scorer for Finland with 21, followed by Sheridan, the opener, with 16. And Nguyen, I think, was perhaps the last batter out before we came off. Talking about the tournament, it was Sweden who topped the table. They remained unbeaten throughout and knocked off Norway this afternoon over there in Tikkurila. So congratulations to Sweden. They win the inaugural Nordic T20. They played really, really well. They were cut above across the weekend. And while the other teams improved as we went along, Sweden turned out to be too good.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to see personally that Finland have come second in the table, only losing to Sweden, the eventual table toppers, and they put on some terrific performances, so that's been a huge boon for cricket in Finland, women's cricket. And just on this match, talking to a couple of the Danish coaches before we had the game abandoned, and made the point to them that we've been mightily impressed by their fielding efforts, and it's something they told us they've been working very hard on. And I said, well, it shows and it pays off. So it just tells you, doesn't it, that a little bit of effort in different areas of the game really does show itself, out on the pitch. You can tell that well-oiled and well-drilled outfit were really up for it. And well, there's been some terrific cricket. I've thoroughly enjoyed being down here over the last few days.
Yeah,
here's the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been absolutely fantastic, and my greatest thanks to Cricket Finland for hosting me here and allowing me to come back to this wonderful country to call more cricket and to be involved with some of the players from throughout the nations on a little bit of skills coaching, which I enjoyed very, very much, and I wish all of those players who I had any involvement with over the course of the last 3 days all the very best for the future. It's going to be great to see how they develop and improve going forward. And as I look at the points table once again, it's quite remarkable to see that Sweden were unaffected by the weather. They were the only country to be unaffected by the weather.
Maybe they were carrying something the others didn't have.
Down under we refer to Australia as the lucky country, but maybe it's Sweden up here in the Nordic nations.
And a run rate there of almost 5 as well. So
yes, they were
tells
tremendous.
Its own story.
Had some really big wins on that first day of play.
Just sad I didn't get to see them in the flesh, but well done to them.
I'm sure they will be back. And if we are so lucky, perhaps we will see them play in another of the Nordic nations as this tournament moves forward into the future. So, on behalf of myself, Jez Brown, and Richard Savage, thank you so much for joining us over the course of this tournament. I wish you all the very best, and we'll see you next time.